The jungle trembles as the Mandalorians approach. Thick jungle hides the massive size of the warrior horde. The Imperials have set up defenses at a small bridge along a river. Many soldiers fear the moment the battle erupts. Commander Squira was in command and received orders to defend the area. He had direct contact with the battlefront and set up 2 defensive lines. But Squira knew that the Mandalorians would most likely overwhelm them, as they were short on troops and walkers. To create a choke point, the Imperials blew up a nearby bridge so that they could focus all fire on the one remaining. Word had gotten around that reinforcing walkers were on their way. The few walkers that were available were set up to fire at the clearing in front of the forest. Squira also had a small bomber squad available, and he sent 2 of them for a bombing run to weaken the first wave of the Mandalorians. As the bombs devastated the terrain, the Mandalorians leaped from the bushes. A massive firefight unfolded as the Mandalorian forces became visible to Imperial eyes. The walkers had clear visibility as well, but the disadvantage was that they were visible and vulnerable too. The Mandalorian soldiers spread out in the grass and gave each other covering fire as the armor rolled in. The Imperials were under constant fire, but tried their best to take out the approaching Mandalorians. More experienced Mandalorian warriors had reached the river, and the Imperial soldiers lost men quickly. The Mandalorian armor was relentless as well, and with each deafening blast they advanced further. Many Mandalorians were firing from the riverbank, and Imperial units were dying left and right. The weak armor of the walkers was also easily destroyed, and things looked hopeless for the Imperial troops. The Mandalorians crossed the bridge to take out the few remaining stormtroopers. Then the Mandalorian troops were surprised by sudden explosions as the reinforcing walkers had arrived. A group of ATSTs greeted the invading Mandalorians with a barrage of blaster fire. The Mandalorian advance came to a halt. The ATSTs fired at the troops in armor on the other side of the river and managed to do some massive damage. But too many Mandalorian tanks had already reached the river area and had spread out. Though the walkers were able to take out a few of the tanks, the Mandalorian armor still proved superior. The Mandalorians, in the end, were able to advance across the river. Meanwhile on Naboo, the Separatist invasion was making great progress. Many cities and villages were taken without a fight, but the native Gungan tribes said they would not go down without resisting. The droids were ready for a clash with the natives. The battle was never fair to begin with. The Gungans did not possess any blasters, and it was a slaughter from the get-go. Some of the Gungans managed to take out some of the droids with grenades, but this was way too inaccurate to be effective. The droids struck down hard with blaster and cannon fire. It was an absolute genocide. The Gungans saw their defeat was imminent, and many ran, only to be mowed down. In reality, the Gungans hoped that the defense force of Theed would come to their rescue, but they never even showed a glimpse. The droids hunted the fleeing Gungans down and claimed victory over their territories. Back at the Imperial defense, several hours had passed. The second line of defense was waiting for the Mandalorians as well. This defense line was also heavily under-equipped, but it had several walkers by their side. The Mandalorians drew near, but refrained from firing as they had not been noticed yet. The forest in front of the Imperial troops was dead silent, but then out of the bushes the Mandalorians engaged. The walkers concentrated fire on the tree line as the Mandalorians emerged once again. While being covered from the tree line, several Mandalorians crossed the open area between the forest and the Imperial defense. The Mandalorian soldiers kept constant pressure on the stormtroopers so that they got shot the moment they showed themselves. A few Mandalorians managed to slip past Imperial defenses and started taking them out from the flank. The troopers could not hold the attack as they got shot from two sides. The remaining ATST was still trying to hold out, and surprisingly managed to do some proper damage. But it was already too late as the Mandalorians had broken Imperial defense and took out any fleeing troops. The Mandalorians had won, and now there was nothing left between them and Squire's command center. Squire would have to make an important decision: stand and fight, or evacuate. And at that exact same time, Separatist forces entered the capital city of Theed. But this time, the defense force would bare its teeth.